Hey everyone, this is Chris Davis, your video and feature producer here at 4Player, and this is your list of the top 10 games of 2014.
Just barely squeezing in at number 10 of the community's top 10 list is The Walking Dead Season 2. And I'm a little surprised that this one made the list. Not because I think this game is any less quality than the first season. I think it has more to do with just what I see as a waning excitement for these new Telltale seasons of not just The Walking Dead, but the other things they're working on. It might actually have to do with just how many properties they are working on at any given time, and the fact that these episodes just feel like they're getting shorter and shorter and further apart as far as releases go. With that said, I do think Season 2 of The Walking Dead is really good. I think it has a lot to do with you know, just the same stuff that made that first season good. That's great character development, great character interactions, and of course making decisions that affect these characters. Clementine is one of the most memorable characters from that first season. Now you get to control her, and that's just, it's cool because, you know, it's been actually, I don't know how long it's been from the first season, but you can definitely tell she's grown a little bit. You're kind of taking charge of the situations, and that's just really cool. I also like a lot of the other characters in this season, especially Kenny. He's the one of the characters from that first season who makes a return. And it really does mean something in this post-apocalyptic situation. You meet a lot of new characters in this season. A lot of characters that seem really, you know, good and trustworthy, but there's something to be said about a familiar face, even when it's Kenny, even when it's someone who's a little crazy. And a lot of the decisions in Season 2 revolve around, am I going to trust this guy I know, or am I going to trust these other people that seem like they're kind of trustworthy? That's where I think the excitement of Season 2 lies, and that's why it kind of stuck with me. I actually regret a little bit kind of forgetting this season at the end of the year, our end of the year awards, because it was really, really good.
We don't have much time to waste.
The number 9 game, as chosen by the community for 2014, is Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U. It's been a long time since Brawl came out, and people were pretty excited for this one. Finally, a new Smash game with new characters. But they did leave out some of the better old characters, like Solid Snake. Though they did add some pretty cool new characters, like Mega Man, Pac-Man, and Duck Hunt. Speaking of characters, with the release of Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U, Nintendo introduced Amiibos. Cute little pieces of plastic that have taken the world by storm. Seriously, are these things like Beanie Babies? You can't get them anywhere and everyone wants them. But I guess that's what happens when a company releases a product the fanbase can get behind. I don't even think half the people that are buying them are actually using them to fight with and train them. I think they're just collecting them because they're cool. You can also now create fighters from your Miis, with the ability to completely customize their moveset. Though, I don't know how many people will actually use that. I'm pretty sure they'll just stick to the core characters. There are also new modes in the game, like Solo, which is similar to the story mode from Brawl, 8-Player Smash, which is just crazy, there's way too many players on the screen. A minigame similar to Mario Party, but nowhere near as fun. And online mode, giving you the ability to compete with players all over the world, and we all know how well Nintendo does online. All in all, Nintendo put out a Smash game that's solid and improved over a lot of the issues from Brawl. This is a game anyone with a Wii U should own.
Coming in at number 8 is Divinity Original Sin, and holy crap, I'm so glad this made the list. I'm shocked, actually. I didn't think many of you have played this game, but I'm guessing the people who did probably had it so high up on their list and it made it onto this top 10. And you all know why I love Divinity Original Sin. I wouldn't shut up about how great the combat system was and how awesome these elements interact with each other in such chaotic ways, but there's actually a lot of other really smart mechanics in this game that I probably didn't talk about enough. For one, you have two main characters that can actually have a say in the story. You can play this entire game co-op, and there's actually cooperative dialogue where each player can make different choices and actually kind of debate it out. And the person who wins the argument will actually get to make the final say in that dialogue tree. It's so smart and so clever. One of the other mechanics that I really like is the ability to split up your party and actually do different things. But not just split up your party. There's other games that let you do that, but allow you to split up your party during dialogue. And it leads to so many cool moments where you're sneaking around places you're not supposed to be because you've diverted the attention of the person that the first guy was talking to, that let the other party members kind of sneak around and steal things. One of the great moments for me in this game when I realized that Divinity was something special was when I snuck down into some jailhouse and I diverted the attention of two of the guards with two characters, and I was using the other two characters to get into these jail cells by using my wizard to teleport my last guy into the cells and to kind of loot them and see what was in them. The thing is, every time I teleported him, he was taking damage, so I was having him sleep in prison beds to restore his health before I teleported him to the next cell. It was just one of those moments where all these mechanics and smart ideas kind of came together in such a creative way that I was able to really feel like I could do anything. It's that freedom, that giant world, that great combat system that makes this one of the best RPGs in recent memory.
So, Shovel Knight is the community's choice for the 7th best game of 2014. And I felt that this retro throwback game was pretty cute. It's not the first indie game to use a retro aesthetic or ideas to produce feelings of nostalgia, but one of the things that really impressed me about Shovel Knight was how dedicated it was to really recreating and extracting all the stuff, the look, the feel of those old games and what made them really fun to play, whilst also mixing it up with some new design ideas, some more modern stuff as well. I really liked how colourful the levels were, how distinctive and different they felt. And I do want to go back on New Game Plus to give this game another go. And the downward plunging attack was also really fun, bouncing off enemies' heads. Unfortunately, I thought that was what made this game maybe a bit too easy, particularly the boss fights, which is a shame because some of them are really characterful and well designed. And played around with a lot of interesting stuff, but I kind of felt like you could just bounce off their head for as long as it took them to just whittle their health down without really thinking about what you're doing. But hey, you know, no game's perfect. I felt this game was maybe a tiny bit overrated overall, but lots of people seem to have enjoyed it, including you guys. Shovel Knight, it's at number 7.
To me, Far Cry has always been that odd series in which you have a hard time predicting what to expect from its next entry. The first one was about rescuing a journalist in an Island of Dr. Moreau-esque story about genetic manipulation of humans and animals. The second one took you to the heart of darkness in Africa, hunting down a war profiteer amidst a tumultuous war between rival tribes. The third returned to a tropical island setting, but this time pitted an unassuming American bro-hard tourist against a band of pirates led by both one of the most well-acted and yet fatally underutilized villains in recent memory. So, when the rumors started swirling that the newest entry in the Far Cry series would take place in the Himalayas with an even more eccentric baddie, one couldn't help but wonder whether they were true or not. And, just like the others, we all enjoyed this new journey quite a bit. Far Cry 4 is easily the most iterative of all the entries in the series, but that isn't to say that it's also not innovative. Rather, Far Cry 4 builds on everything that the third game was great at and throws in some great enhancements and refinements. From new climbing mechanics and gunplay to gyrocopters and weaponized wildlife, this new game had plenty to offer, but I cannot state enough how interesting its villain was. Pagan Min may be just as underutilized as Voss was in the last game, but what he loses in screen time he makes up for in his rather interesting relationship with our protagonist, as well as the game's very thought-provoking ending. The story won't win any awards or be remembered with the likes of shocking titles like Spec Ops: The Line, but it certainly feels like a fresh breath of excitement and intrigue in an age in which endings cater to getting a sequel rather than offering closure and satisfaction to the player. You guys chose Far Cry 4 as your number 6 for this list of the best games of 2014, and it's a well-deserved placing.
What a relief it is to see that Shinji Mikami's new horror IP, The Evil Within, didn't fall flat. In fact, it was voted into the number 5 slot on the 4Player community's top 10 list. As I said in my own top 10, the game stumbled pretty hard right out of the gate for me because of an insanely frustrating camera. In fact, that problem was compounded by the reduced visibility caused by the ridiculous letterboxing. But honestly, I forgot all about that the longer I played because the game has substance, and it plays like a dream once you master those controls. Many may knock it for its over-the-top plot, but I found it to be appropriate in every sense of the word. One moment had me slowly stalking the halls of a dilapidated hospital while desperately trying to evade invisible zombies, while another involved a panic-inducing boss fight against a 6-armed ring ghost that hates fire. And then there's the set pieces. Oh my lord, I love the set pieces in this game. The image of a burning barn standing alone in a seemingly endless field of tall sunflowers is permanently burned into my brain. It was beautiful. But hey, I doubt that's the only reason you guys like this game so much. The game is, in my opinion, the spiritual successor to Resident Evil 4 that I've dreamed of for years. In a lot of ways, I feel like Resident Evil actually crescendoed with 4, and Evil Within slowly but surely rose from the ashes. The combat, the set-piece design, the atmosphere all feel like the perfect love letter to what many consider to be one of the industry's greatest achievements. One thing I did fail to mention though in my own top 10 was how incredibly well-designed many of the boss encounters are. It'd be a crime to spoil them, but I can think of 3 right offhand that I found to be insanely tense and far more involved than your average shoot it until it dies trope. Well, you do shoot them until they die, but it almost always involves something more demanding. And I loved it. So what can I say, guys? I'm really glad we saw this one through to the end, because it's certainly worth the number 5 spot on this list. Good choice.
This next game should come as no surprise to anyone. Coming in at number 4 on the list is Dragon Age Inquisition. Now, I really like this game. I put it as number 5 on my top 10 list this year. Admittedly, it's not a perfect game. There were some issues with the combat system and with the general pacing of the overall story, but I still think this is one of the most enjoyable 70-hour video game experiences I've had in the last several years. What I really, really like about this game are the characters. The cast of companion characters and advisors are all wonderful and deep and fleshed out and really unique, and they all stand out in their own specific way. Give or take 1 or 2. And you actually care about these people and their problems and what happens to them, and you want to help them grow and overcome their problems. It would be nicer if the overall threat that you and these people are working together to stop was a little bit more, threatening. But overall, I still think that Dragon Age Inquisition was one of the best games of 2014, and apparently, so did you guys.
Mages and Templars and innocent people.
Licensed games get a bad rap today, and for the most part, appropriately so. These titles, save for a handful of exceptions, end up being merchandising tie-ins that are either made to fit a film's release date, or, should they survive to become a series of games, end up being so repetitive in gameplay and structure that you have to wonder why they even bothered going on with it. As a franchise, though, Lord of the Rings has seen it all. From successful hack and slashers to real-time strategy titles, from MMOs to MOBAs, few genres have been spared the J.R.R. Tolkien treatment. And now, from there and back again, the story of the Lord of the Rings franchise's longevity continues anew, with probably the finest take on the series to come about in a decade. Shadow of Mordor dares to be different. Instead of experiencing a game version of the novels or films, it takes you on a journey of revenge and hatred set between the events that we are so familiar with. Instead of focusing on just killing wave after wave of orcs and other Middle-earth monsters, you're given a command structure of the society of this foul race and are tasked with taking it down from within right under Sauron's watchful eye. Instead of reliving scenes from the source material, you get to witness a new perspective on this centuries-old conflict between light and darkness in a way that hasn't been explored before. In short, it's unlike any Tolkien game you've ever played. It certainly has its flaws, and I have liked to have seen a few more passes of polish to iron out the issues that appear throughout the experience, but despite them, Shadow of Mordor is simply a great game.
Dead man! I know you like sneaking up
While some games this year enchanted me with their artistic core, others with their scope, Bayonetta 2 won me over by being a really fucking great video game. The works of Platinum Games are always such stripped-down masterpieces of strong gameplay. Bayonetta 2, like its predecessor, leans hard on the throw everything at the screen, damn common sense end of the scale. As the industry trudges ever forward in a death march of limited color palettes and limited fun, we need games like Bayonetta 2 to remind us why we play these things. The gameplay, then, matters more than nearly any other discussion to be had about the game, and it's a thrilling discussion. A cynic would tell you that Bayonetta 2 only iterates on the gameplay of its predecessor. I would say that Bayonetta 2 perfects it. Among the tweaks made to how it all works, my favorite has to be the addition of Umbran Climax, essentially this game's version of Devil Trigger. On one level, this is just a cool new addition to your arsenal. But on a deeper level, it adds a critical new choice in battle. By pulling from the same resource as your torture finishers, it forces you to make a snap evaluation of the battle in your next move. Do you cash it all in on a torture finisher to wipe out a single enemy and get a health boost, though that's only one enemy among many? Or do you use an Umbran Climax, potentially wiping out many, but still a risky gamble that could leave you without any kills at all or any more health? Imagine all these thoughts happening at 100 miles an hour, and you have in a single moment a perfect understanding of how secretly brilliant and tactical this core gameplay is. Bayonetta 2 runs great in a year of shitty game launches, it's polished as hell, the story's above Platinum's average, and it's some of the most fun I had this year.
Dark Souls 2. The number one game of 2014 as chosen by our community. And it makes sense. The game is great. It makes an appearance on almost all of our top 10 lists as well. It's like Jeff was saying in his top 10 video. It's more Dark Souls. What is there not to love about that? The Souls games are probably some of the most frustrating games I have ever played, but I will always play them because they are that good. Take Bloodborne for example. That comes out pretty soon, and it looks completely different from any of the Souls games. But I am just as excited to play it because I know From Software is going to deliver a game that will probably be on my top 10 list of 2015. One of my favorite things about the Souls series is introducing someone to it. At first, they get super frustrated and have a hard time, but then, when you see them again and they have that twinkle in their eye, and the excitement because they want to talk about the game because it's clicked with them and they figured out what's going on, it's such a good feeling because you know they too have become a Souls fan and are going to just love this series. Similar to Dark Souls, you can't just jump into a friend's game and help them out. In Dark Souls 2, you have to be at similar soul levels, which I kind of like. Someone who has hundreds of hours in the game can't just jump into a level 1 player's game and help them out. They have to be at similar soul levels. But that experience from them playing the game gives them something that super powerful items and a high level can't give you. It gives you the experience and the knowledge you need to know how to navigate a Dark Souls world. Which is why anyone who gets into the Souls series will be into the Souls series for life. Every Souls game will provide an experience that is like no other. You are guaranteed to get a beautiful world, insane monsters you have to fight, and solid mechanics that anyone can learn and master. And that's why Dark Souls 2 is the community's number one game of 2014.
Alright guys, that's it. This is our final piece of our Game of the Year 2014 coverage, and thank you for participating. Please be sure to check out the brand new website at 4playernetwork.com, visit our new awesome forums, and be sure to catch us every night at 4pp.tv. I'm Chris, and it's been fun.